We've all been there. You plug in your mouse, your keyboard, your hard drive, and just nothing. It's one of the most frustrating little problems in tech. Well, today we are going to walk through a complete step-by-step guide to figure out exactly what's going on and get your gear working again.
It's the worst, isn't it? One minute everything's fine, the next your setup is dead in the water. But you're not alone, and I've got good news. The fix is usually way simpler than you'd think. You just need a solid, logical process to follow, and that's what we're here for.
So here's the game plan. We're going to start with the super simple stuff first. Then we'll dig into software quirks, take a look at the device manager, and finally check for any hardware problems. By the end, you'll have a whole new toolkit for tackling this.
All right, let's start at square one. Seriously, before you even think about drivers or settings, we have got to rule out the basic physical stuff. You would be absolutely shocked how often the solution is right here in this first step.
Okay, first up, the classic IT solution for a reason. Unplug the device, count to 5, and plug it back in. If that doesn't do it, try a totally different USB port. And here's a huge pro tip for you desktop users. Always try a port on the back of the machine. Why? Because those are connected directly to the motherboard, making them way more reliable than the ones on the front. And last, a real simple one, if your gadget has batteries or a power cord, just double check that it's actually getting juice. So if the physical checks didn't do the trick, our next stop is software. See, the problem might not be your device at all. It could be how your computer is trying to manage it, often by trying to save a little bit of power when it shouldn't.
This is a big one, and honestly, it's kind of sneaky. Windows has this feature that's supposed to be helpful. It tries to save energy by watching your USB ports, and if it decides a port isn't active, it can just turn it off. The problem is, sometimes it gets a little too aggressive and shuts down a port you're very much trying to use.
So how do you take back control? You're going to open up Device Manager. Find the section for Universal Serial Bus Controllers, and you'll see a few things called USB Root Hub. You need to right-click on each one, go to Properties, find the Power Management tab, and uncheck that little box. This basically tells Windows, hey, hands off my ports. Just make sure you do this for every single root hub in the list to be safe. And here's another super easy software fix. Just make sure everything is up to date. Run Windows Update, but don't just stop at the security stuff. Look for the optional update section. That's where all the juicy new hardware drivers are often hiding. An old chipset driver can absolutely cause weird USB problems.
Okay, if you're still with me and still stuck, it's time to roll up our sleeves and pop the hood with Device Manager. Now, don't let the name scare you. It's the best tool you have for seeing exactly how your hardware is talking, or not talking, to your computer.
Think of Device Manager as like a roll call for all your computer parts. Every single piece of hardware has to check in here. And if there's any trouble, a missing driver, a conflict, it's going to show up, usually with a little yellow warning sign next to it. Now, what you see in this list is basically a clue telling you what to do next. If your device shows up as unknown device, that means Windows has literally no idea what you just plugged in. The driver is either gone or completely broken. On the other hand, if you see the actual device name, like Logitech Mouse, that's much better news. It means the driver is there, but something else is getting in the way. Either way, the best fix is often just a fresh start. Find that problematic device in the list, right-click it, and choose Uninstall Device. Now, here's the crucial part. Make sure you check the box that says Delete the driver software for this device. That gets rid of the bad files for good. Then, just unplug it, reboot your whole PC, and plug it back in. Windows will see it as brand new and install a fresh driver. Now, if reinstalling that one specific driver doesn't work, you can go one step further, kind of the nuclear option. Go back to that list of USB root hubs, but this time, uninstall all of them. I know it sounds terrifying, but trust me, it's safe. When you restart your computer, Windows has no choice but to completely rebuild its map of your USB system, and that can clear out some really deep, stubborn problems. All right, we've pretty much exhausted all the software and driver fixes. If the problem is still there, we have to start thinking about the physical hardware itself. It might be a simple limitation you're running into. Here's a number you should probably know, 500 milliamps. That's the standard amount of power a single USB 2.0 port can push out. If you plug in a really power-hungry device, or, and this is more common, you plug too many things into a cheap little hub, you can go over that limit. When you do, the port just shuts itself down to stay safe, and your devices go dark. So what does that actually look like? Well, the biggest one is using a cheap, unpowered hub to connect a bunch of stuff. The fix is easy. Get a powered hub, one that plugs into the wall.
Also, be careful with super long USB cables, anything over about 10 feet. The signal can get weak, especially for things like webcams. And please, never plug a power-hungry device into the little USB port on your keyboard. Always go straight into the computer.
And let's circle back to that front port issue on desktops we mentioned earlier. If you've tested it and the back ports are working fine but the front ones are dead, there's a really good chance that the internal cable connecting them has just wiggled loose. If you feel comfortable popping open your PC case, it's usually a really easy fix. Just find the cable and plug it back in firmly.
Whew, okay. We have covered a ton of ground, from simple plugs to deep dive driver stuff. So let's boil all of that down into one final, super clear checklist you can use anytime a USB port decides to give you trouble.
So here is your game plan, in order. Number 1, always start with the basics. Reconnect, try another port, check the power. If that doesn't work, move on to software. Disable power saving, run Windows Update. Still no luck? Then it's time for Device Manager to reinstall some drivers. And last, if all else fails, consider the physical hardware. Power limits, bad cables, loose connections. Following this order will solve your problem 99% of the time.
And that leads us to the final logical conclusion. What if you have gone through every single one of these steps methodically, and the device still doesn't work in any port, but other devices work just fine in those same ports? Well, you've just done the final step of troubleshooting, proving that sometimes the hardware just fails. It might be time to accept that the problem isn't the computer or the port, it's the device itself.